Police officers were convicted today of charges of witness tampering in the 2023 fatal beating of Tyree Nichols, and two were acquitted of federal civil rights violations in the death of Mr. Nichols. All three of the former officers were convicted of at least one charge, but two were acquitted of the civil rights charges that were filed against them. A lot of shock and surprise in the legal community that the more serious civil rights charges related to the death of Mr. Nichols did not result in convictions for all three former officers. We're going to talk more about the developing story and the jury verdict in the Tyree Nichols case in hour two. And more news today, the dock workers' strike that threatened the American supply chain weeks before an election is over, just days after it began and before inflicting pain on consumers. The union that represents tens of thousands of East Coast dock workers and the shipping industry reached a tentative agreement on wages and are extending an expired contract through January 15, 2025. And the Israeli military issued evacuation warnings today for a further swath of towns and villages in southern Lebanon, where its troops are fighting Hezbollah militants, as Lebanese health officials raised the death toll from an Israeli strike near the heart of Beirut to at least 9 people. Former President Donald Trump has never stopped propagating falsehoods that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from him. But now he is increasingly turning his attention to preemptive claims the 2024 election is being rigged to prevent him from returning to the White House. This year, Trump and his campaign have cited more than a dozen examples of so-called election interference activities by Americans to claim the coming election is being unfairly manipulated, including claiming that Jack Smith's brief that was filed with the federal district court in Manhattan regarding the 2020 election is yet another example of election interference. But as general election voting begins around the country, the campaign has provided no evidence of actual cheating and no specific allegations related to potentially illegal efforts to tamper with this year's election proceedings. Cherise Lane, she's a senior at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, and she wants to establish what would be the only active chapter of college Republicans at a historically Black college or university. Well, there's just one roadblock. Miss Cherise Lane cannot find an advisor for the group to be recognized on campus. The College Republican National Committee, which has been around since 1892, is an unofficial affiliate of the Republican National Committee. The group touts a presence on nearly 2,000 campuses across the country. While there are more than 100 HBCUs in the country, none are home to an active official college Republican club. And President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program can proceed after a judge today, or yesterday, in fact, let a temporary restraining order on the plan expire. Now, it's what some would call a minor victory for the Biden administration, but an important one, just weeks ahead of the presidential election. The lawsuit was brought in September by 7 GOP-led states against Biden and the Education Secretary, Miguel Cardona. Well, Tim Walz will participate tonight in a virtual event with a major Muslim group to address the critical issues that matter most to Muslim American communities, both domestically and globally. The event comes as VP Harris faces renewed backlash from Muslim and Arab voters over her support of Israel amid the expansion of the war in the Middle East and ahead of the October 7th anniversary of Hamas's attack on Israel. The Harris campaign also announced the launch today of Wisconsin Republicans for Harris. Now, this is as Vice President Harris and Liz Cheney, you all remember her, former Congresswoman, Republican Congresswoman, they are in Ripon, Wisconsin today campaigning. Now, this group that has been launched, the Republicans for Harris, has more than 20 Republicans from across the state of Wisconsin, including long-term Republican county party chairs and elected county district attorneys. Donald Trump does not align with Wisconsin values, one of these elected officials said, and to ensure our democracy and our economy remain strong for another 4 years, They say we must elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. And the major Republican super PAC involved in House races is ramping up its ad spending in California and Arizona as Republicans look to keep control of the House and expand their slim majority by picking up some Democratic-held seats. And Vice President Harris is launching her own ads, and this time they're in battleground states. They're featuring a former supporter of Donald Trump. This is coming on the same day that she is, I would say, campaigning heavily for those Republican voters. This ad campaign will feature Matt McCaffrey. He is a lifelong Republican who voted for Trump in the past, and he will explain that he is supporting the Harris-Walz team because he believes the former president will hurt the middle class and is not taking responsibility for his past mistakes. That's the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in Real Time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm happy to be joined by Dr. Nee Cordelay-Corte. He is KBLA's National Political Affairs correspondent, and he is host of A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA weekdays at 1 p.m. PST. That's 4 p.m. on the East Coast. Also joining Dr. Nee today is Rashad Frazier-Gaines. He's the founder of Black Progressives, and he has launched an initiative called Biblical Justice with the COGIC, which is the Church of God in Christ church groups around the country. Glad to be in conversation with Dr. Nee and Rashad on such a busy news day. And in hour two, as I said at the top of the show, we're going to be talking to my legal experts about this shocking jury verdict in the Tyre Nichols case. I have been on several programs myself predicting that there would be guilty convictions, that the jury would come back guilty on all of the civil rights violations in this federal trial, particularly given that the horrific video of Mr. Nichols was played over and over again by the defense. But to my surprise, and to many in the legal community, the verdict is what we call a mixed verdict. Yes, there were some guilty determinations or findings by the jury, but on the lesser charges of witness tampering and a violation involving one officer of Mr. Nichols' rights, his constitutional rights, as it relates to injuries that he suffered. But none of the three former officers were convicted on the charges that they violated his civil rights, and the violations led to the death of Mr. Nichols. Kind of break down that jury verdict with my legal experts in hour two. Again, very shocking determination by this jury sitting in a federal district court in Tennessee. Now, the good news is for those that were expecting, like me, guilty verdicts across the board, these three former officers, one, were detained, so they did not go home freely. They are in custody. The witness tampering charges are very serious in federal court and can carry up to 20-year prison sentence, although the guidelines are going to be a lot less than that. And the real good news is state charges, state murder, second-degree murder charges have been filed by the district attorney in Memphis. So these officers are former officers are far from being out of legal jeopardy. Not only do they have some significant time they're facing in federal court, but they also have to jump over to state court and face those murder charges. So we're going to talk a lot more about what happened in the case. What does this mean for those state murder charges, and what are the likely sentences that these three former officers will face, and the two officers that pled guilty in advance and testified against the former officers that were just acquitted on some charges and found guilty on others. So make sure you stick around for hour two. It's such an important case. This case, as I've said over and over again, hasn't gotten the kind of media attention that I think it deserves. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we are in an election year. It is hard to get media attention for anything other than the campaign that's happening at the national level. And I agree, this is one of the most important campaigns in our lifetime. So I'm not mad about the wall-to-wall coverage on the election, but we want to make sure on KBLA that we are covering stories like the Tyre Nichols trial, because these are stories that are important to our community as well. And these stories are going to inform how a lot of people vote, which candidates are looking to make police officers immune. We know which candidate that is, Donald Trump, that is, and which candidate, i.e. Kamala Harris, is going to look to hold police officers more accountable when they engage in this conduct. So all of this is really intricately tied together. So we're going to be talking about these stories and what's happening in the political news in both hour 1 and 2. And before I bring on my guests, I just want to talk about Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, some folks will say not such a big profile and courage, but I got to give Liz Cheney a lot of props. We have not seen someone from a family as conservative as Liz Cheney's family is. Remember her father is, Dick Cheney, was vice president under President Bush, very, very conservative family, grew up with Republican conservative values, is right now, as we speak, maybe it ended, but short time ago, she was on a stage in Wisconsin, the birth of the Republican Party, not with Donald Trump, not with someone running for office as a Republican, but she was on that stage with Kamala Harris. That is huge. Again, I don't know what you think about Liz Cheney. Some folks say too little, too late. She should have, turned on Donald Trump sooner. She should have turned on many in the Republican Party sooner. You can always say that, but you cannot deny that this woman is risking her entire career in Republican politics because people have long memories. And even though it's not likely that under a Donald Trump Republican Party, Liz Cheney had many options because she has, engaged in what Trump would call the cardinal sin, and that is not backing him. Anyone that doesn't support him doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell right now in the Republican Party. But she's gone further. And folks like Mitt Romney said, no, I'm not going to go as far as endorsing Kamala Harris because when Donald Trump is out of the picture, according to Mitt Romney, he believes that he has a place in the Republican Party and helping to rebuild it into the party that he was once the leader of when he was running for president. And he thought that standing on a stage or endorsing Kamala Harris would be a bridge too far for a lot of Republicans, and he wouldn't be able to make his way back to the Republican Party. So Liz Cheney had to factor in some of the same considerations that Mitt Romney did when she decided, not only am I going to endorse Kamala Harris on a national news program to make it known to all, voters, but I'm going to go even further. I'm going to appear at a rally with her and double down on my endorsement. So again, to the backdrop of Bruce Springsteen today on Thursday, other influential firefighters, influential Republicans, I should say, in Wisconsin at this rally as they kick off this statewide Republican initiative or Democratic initiative under Kamala Harris, but to bring in more Republican voters, those Republican voters who no longer see Donald Trump as the leader of their party and don't see or recognize the party that they hold very dearly. So I'm going to say, bravo, Liz Cheney. Thank you for having the courage to stand up and put country over party and to not just say it, but to put your endorsement into action, because you can make an endorsement and then you can work an endorsement. And being on that stage today with Kamala Harris is how you work an endorsement. So I just say, work, Liz, work. We see you, we salute you, and we are happy to have you on the team. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later today.
Chevy, All the Things, 2024 Truck Season Radio 30, code GWMR0294000.
This truck season, think about all the things you can do in a Chevy truck. You'll be able to, or you can you can even just... With impressive towing, incredible bed and tailgate functionality, and multiple powertrains, Chevy trucks have what you need to get things done. When you want to do it all, Chevy's got you. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Always night pads are designed for a perfect night's sleep. So you can do your bear hugging a pillow thing, your free falling starfish thing, your burritoed in a blanket with the AC blasting thing. While Always night pads with rapid dry do their we've got your back with fast absorbency and up to 10 hours of protection thing. So while your period's doing its own thing, Always lets you do your sleep thing. Shop for Always in-store or online, wherever you get your pads.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar!
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. Climate is king.
You've got a Pepto predicament, moviegoer.
Hey, I can hear your stomach grumbling.
Sorry, I ate that entire tub of popcorn with extra butter.
You overdid it, and now your movie has turned into a blockbuster bellyache. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief, so you can focus on the action on the big screen instead of in your stomach. When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com.
Cortez here, and Rashad Frazier Gaines, Dr. Cordelay, Dr. Nee, as we call him, is the KBLA's National Political Affairs correspondent, and he's host of A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA every day at 1 p.m. PST. And Rashad is the founder of Black Progressives. There is a lot of political news today, guys, starting with Liz Cheney. Dr. Nee, Liz Cheney is not just giving an endorsement. She, as I said, is working that endorsement. How big is this? That Liz Cheney is on the stage, was on the stage. I was listening to it because a lot of stations carried it live. That's how significant some folks believe this was, to be on that stage at the birthplace of the Republican Party, hand in hand with a Democrat.
Areva, it's a big deal. It's a big deal that former Representative Liz Cheney was there on the stage with Vice President Harris and speaking before a crowd of folks from Wisconsin that are Wisconsin Republicans for Harris. You and I have talked at length at how many Republicans have been orphaned by this Republican Party led by Donald Trump. We've talked at length, particularly about Nikki Haley voters not having anywhere to go. And I think Liz Cheney really represents those orphaned Republicans who are still Republicans principally, but they have found a way to put country first. And part of what we're hearing, not just from Liz Cheney, but from a number of other folks that represent this sort of unity coalition, this motley crew of folks who've come together around Harris, they've been giving voters the permission structure to support Harris. I was just looking through the pool report notes about what Liz Cheney said on stage with Vice President Harris today. And she reminded folks that she's still principally a Republican, but she went down the line reminding people about how and why Donald Trump is bad for our republic, how he's a threat to the republic. This is Liz Cheney, who was also co-chair of the January 6th Commission. And so she knows in great detail the enormous threat that former President Trump posed to our republic. And she used this opportunity to remind people of that and to remind people that they have a choice in their future. And by the way, she noted about what a Vice President Harris in the Oval Office might mean to little girls everywhere.
Wow, this is important, a big deal, as you call it, Dr. Nee. Rashad, I've not had a chance to talk to you or Dr. Nee after the debate on Tuesday night, but one of the critiques of Tim Walz was that he was, too congenial, too nice, too soft, and that that was all a part of a plan to play to these independents or maybe these Republicans who are looking for a home. And some folks said, look, that's not what the base wanted. So I'm wondering, how are you feeling about this Liz Cheney rollout? Do you think this is appropriate? Do you think, all right, Harris Walz, don't get too far from the base? So how are you feeling? Because people seemingly are kind of getting in their feelings, thinking that the team is not playing enough to the base.
I believe that we're seeing unprecedented moves right now because we're in unprecedented times. The reality is Liz Cheney is showing a type of courage that we don't see at the national level right now. And President Trump has made the divisive nature that we've become used to in recent times the standard. So I think people are bothered by the fact that we have adults who can articulate themselves without name calling, without playing the dozens, right? And then it just happens that they're women, right? Or it just happens that Governor Walz is not as tall and slim as we're used to seeing people on the national stage. Like, we have people who look like America acting like we raise our children to be. And I think that bothers folks. I really think a lot of people are bothered that we're having a conversation and we can disagree, and I don't have to call you out your name, I don't have to talk about your mom, and I don't have to curse, right?
That's really interesting, Rashad. Dr. Nee. So Rashad is saying people wanted Tim to be, a bulldog because Donald Trump has changed the nature of our politics. And he's now, the standard is, how hard do you go after your opponent? How many names, how many one-liners, how many, I got yous. And Tim Walz was sitting there being very civil. And there used to be a time when you got a lot of brownie points for civility.
I mean, I think it's important for us to note just sort of where we're at in the campaign cycle. And I think a lot of folks have locked into who they're supporting, whether it's Harris or Trump. I think they're competing for a much smaller universe of undecided voters. And it maybe about a third of the way through, it occurred to me that perhaps Governor Walz and Senator Vance weren't really trying to talk to us. They were trying to appeal to those folks who were undecided. I mean, think about it. Senator Vance, if you would have closed your eyes and if you hadn't paid attention to everything that he said and done throughout this campaign cycle, he might have come across as somewhat reasonable, right? I think for Governor Walz, if you had been paying attention to the campaign, and if you would have closed your eyes, you also would have thought that he was reasonable. They were able to disagree without being disagreeable, and I don't think that's by accident. And so if you look at some of the polling that we've seen coming out of the debate, on issues like healthcare, Governor Walz was the clear winner. On issues like reproductive rights, Governor Walz was the clear winner. He even put up, I think it was 50-50 on immigration and maybe 50-50 on the economy. And so I think there was a rhyme and reason that didn't make for an entertaining debate. It wasn't the kind of fight that we thought that Governor Walz was going to take to Senator Vance or vice versa. But given the voters that they were competing to reach, this might have been a sleeper strategy, a very effective sleeper strategy, particularly for Governor Walz.
Well, we know there were some polls after the debate that said Governor Walz's likability ratings, points, etc., went up, and that he's one of the most likable candidates in the race. So definitely he did something right. And it was clear that there was a strategy. And you're right, J.D. Vance, but for the fact that most of what he said were lies, the way he delivered what he said was very polished, and very congenial. Now,
right.
if you didn't know that Donald Trump did not engage in a peaceful transfer of power, he made it, seem like he did. Like January 20th, he peacefully turned over the keys to the White House. We know that to be a lie. If you didn't know that Donald Trump did not save Obamacare, that he spent his entire campaign and time in the White House trying to kill Obamacare, you might have thought, again, a very reasonable guy on health care. He didn't say he was pro-choice, but he definitely said we've got to do better on this issues. I mean, he all but made himself, middle of the road on abortion issues, when we know that is so contrary to who he is and what he stands for. So, look, these guys are not there to entertain us. We want entertainment. We can watch a comedy show. We can watch a musical concert. It was a policy debate. They debated policy. One guy lied most of the time. The other guy told the truth. So you did need to do some fact checking, but I hope it is a precursor to what future debates will look like and how we get back to a place in our, politics where we can have really substantive debates about policy without the name calling and without the need to try to, do those one-liners that go viral. When we come forward, we got to talk about Walz, because he's doing a very important virtual meeting today, and that's what Muslim voters who are a little lukewarm on VP Harris. So let's talk about what that might mean, and that dock worker strike is over, which is good news for everyone. And then what about Sharice Lane? She wants a Republican, club at a HBCU, and all of the professors, and you're one, Dr. Neer, saying, sorry, sweetheart, we can't do it. Not this time. Let's talk about what what our options might be to get that Republican club at that HBCU. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Support could be growing for Vice President Kamala Harris across Georgia. Since she announced her bid for president in late July, about 130,000 people registered to vote in the state, according to Newsweek. Georgia is one of several battleground states that could decide the 2024 election between Harris and her Republican opponent, former President Donald Trump. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is making it clear that anyone not sharing his vision of transforming the public school system must go. Johnson, who is Black, spoke before the media, saying he was elected to fight for the people of the city, and whoever is in the way, get out of it. It appears that Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez got in the way when he and the school board refused the mayor's request to secure a short-term high-interest loan to pay for a new teacher contract. Some aldermen agree that the loan was not a good idea, but they believe Martinez must come up with a plan on revenue options. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
In the city of Commerce, watch for an accident currently involving two vehicles on the right shoulder of the 5 South at the 710. Right now, stop traffic is for about 15 minutes from East 7th Street. An ice cream truck is currently stalled, blocking the second lane from the left of Boyle Heights 5 North at 4th Street with a 10 to 15 minute backup running heavy from Highway 60. Grab some ice cream while you're at it. In Hollywood, expect a 35 to 40 minute traffic jam on the 101 South between Gower Street and the 10 7th Street interchange. Back in Elysian Park, stop traffic continues over an hour now from Griffith Park Drive as an accident involving a tanker truck is still blocking the right lane of the 5 South after Highway 110.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get your home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime. Download the Lowe's app to find what you need today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The lawsuit filed by former USC star running back Reggie Bush against the NCAA, Pac-12 Conference, and USC has taken a strange turn. Bush wants USC to pay for his legal expenses. The former Heisman Trophy winner is suing the NCAA, Pac-12, and USC for money he believes he should have earned under name, image, and likeness guidelines. There was no NIL when Bush played for USC. Bush contends that the NCAA, Pac-12, and USC benefited from his popularity. That might be true, but Bush is in a strange territory, suing USC and asking them to pay for his attorney fees. No response yet from USC, although it is unlikely the school would agree to something like that. Bush won the Heisman Trophy in 2005. He was forced to give it up in 2010 after an investigation revealed he received improper benefits while playing for USC. The NCAA returned the Heisman to Bush in April. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses, like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
And that chill in the air means one thing. It's truck season!
Just 5 more minutes.
No snoozing. You've got so much to do. So do it all in a Chevy Colorado or Silverado, including the HD or class-leading 440-mile range of the Silverado EV.
Wait, what? Are you talking?
Yes! Picture it. Work, play, hauling gear, off-roading. A Chevy truck can take whatever you can throw at it, including tailgating in an actual tailgate!
I mean, homecoming is just around the corner. Oh, and showing up in a new truck?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Get things done and look good doing it.
Okay, I'm up. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Without offering me a ride? That's cold.
It's Chevy truck season. Head to your local Chevy dealer and get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available, at least in some of the offers. Take new retail delivery by 10/31/24.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the
We are back, and Dr. Nee Corte is joining us in this hour. He is KBLA's National Political Affairs Correspondent, and he's host of A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA every day at 1 p.m. Make sure you check it out. And Rashad Frazier Gaines is with us. He's founder of Black Progressives. Rashad, I'll ask you this about Walz. We haven't seen Governor Walz too much since the DNC. Some folks are asking why he's been so MIA. He's not doing a lot of interviews on television. Presumably he's out doing campaign stops and fundraising. But tonight he's going to be doing something that a lot of Muslim Americans have been wanting Kamala Harris to do, and that is address their issues, both domestically and globally. He's going to be meeting with a group that has been hostile, somewhat hostile to the Harris campaign over the issues of Israel and what's going on in Palestine. How important is it that Walz meets with this group, and how likely is it that he can persuade them They already know Donald Trump is not their candidate, but the fear is that they won't vote at all, not that they'll vote for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. So, earlier this year, I've said on your show many times, every group under the Big Ten of the Democrats has a reason to feel the way that they feel. Every group, whether it's women, LGBT, Black, faith people, Jewish people, immigrants, Mexican Americans, it doesn't matter. Like every group under the Big Ten of the Democrats have their fair share of issues with policies and actions by the administration. That doesn't mean we endorse them going to the other side or endorse them staying home, but we do have to acknowledge that people have pain points within the party. I think us seeing the no contest vote or the lack of voting in good faith in many of the primaries was very telling. And I am glad that the campaign is finally doing what it needs to do to rectify those concerns. Sometimes a conversation is all that's needed because there are people that just want to be heard, right? A lot of folks just want to be heard. And I think when you're asking people to vote for you and to give you your money and to support you in office, they're owed a conversation, right? I think the other piece of this is Governor Walz is uniquely positioned to be the intermediary. He's the governor of a state with one of the largest Muslim and Arab American populations in the country. So he has insight and he has skin in the game that a lot of other leaders in the Democratic Party don't have. So I think this is a really great thing. I just wish that it happened 6 months ago, right? I wish it happened 3 months ago. I think where we make a mistake on the Democratic and the progressive side of the spectrum is we don't go to the people that we need to make things happen so that we can win until after Labor Day. And that's a little problematic for me, but I am glad the conversation is happening.
Keith Ellison is going to be a part of that conversation, as well as some other key Democratic figures. Dr. Nee, what do you say? I think Rashad makes an excellent point that obviously this is a Big Ten party, the Democrats are, and sometimes it's just a matter of giving space. Now, we don't know. According to the reporting, this is the first time a Democratic vice presidential candidate will directly engage with the Muslim American community on this scale ahead of an election. But obviously, this is an important community. There are lots of Muslims, Americans, and Arab Americans in Minnesota, many of them in Michigan, key battleground state. Is this, could the Democrats have handled this better? Perhaps had this meeting earlier, as Rashad is referring to or making reference to.
Yeah, I mean, look, hindsight is always 20/20, and it's no different with this issue here. Before we got into the heart and soul of the primary season, we knew that there were more than just grumbles from folks that are a part of the Democratic Party that took issue with the administration's hardline position in support of Israel. To many, it felt like at all cost. And that was a part of what drove the uncommitted movement to grow, not just in the state of Michigan, but in a number of battleground states and other states, really sending a very powerful message to President Biden and Vice President Harris, that the road to your reelection, also comes through us, right? And we want to change in policy. And so, look, Vice President Harris has committed to having an official meeting with leaders of the uncommitted movement. She's been out on the campaign trail and at a stop in Michigan. Had actually met, behind the scenes with leadership from the uncommitted movement. She has not rendered them invisible. She has talked about the plight of Palestinians and their right to sovereignty and their right to safety, as well as the right for Israel to protect and defend itself. And so, there is some effort. There's an increased effort. We're seeing definitely more effort from VP Harris than we saw from President Biden when he was on the top of the ticket. And in between the two of them, there's been more engagement of leadership from the uncommitted movement than former President Trump and certainly Senator J.D. Vance. And so one might think that though these efforts appear to be incremental, they are definitely more meaningful than the alternative.
Oh my God, yes. And many of these voters and leaders of these groups have made it very clear that they understand Donald Trump is a threat to their very existence. So they do not see the choice as between VP Harris and Donald Trump. They just see the issue is a matter of turnout and not wanting to have low voter turnout because people are not aligned with where VP Harris and Harris-Walz administration will be. So great. I'm just excited that Tim Walz, he's on this party he got put on his ticket for a reason. And I'm glad that he can hopefully be a bridge to that community. We saw many of them come around at the DNC. Many were delegates and they did pledge their vote to the vice president. So I think there is some significant movement happening. I'm going to ask you this, Dr. Nee, because you are a college professor. You work at a college. Sharice Lane, she's a senior at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. And she wants to reestablish, not establish for the first time, but reestablish an active chapter of a college Republican club, as there are Democratic clubs on college campuses. She just wants there to be a Republican one. Now, there is not one there's no Republican club at any of the 100 HBCUs in this country. She can't find a professor advisor. You can't have a club on college campuses without a professor as your advisor. What do you make of this?
It's a sign of the times. Look, the Republican brand has really taken a big hit with former President Trump being at the helm. And so it's made the brand a bit radioactive. There's a reason why you have folks like former Representative Liz Cheney and former Vice President Dick Cheney and over 230 Republican staffers and over 100 Republican national security officials throwing their support around Vice President Harris, right? The Republican brand is damaged and, they need to rebuild that party. I think Vice President Harris said as much in Wisconsin today on stage with Liz Cheney that she looks forward to more vigorous debate with the Republican Party when they rebuild. And who knows, maybe this young person on that college campus is a part of that rebuilding. I certainly hope that she finds an advisor on her campus that may not agree, with the Republican Party in principle, but believes that we need to get back to having not just two parties, but multiple parties that are engaged in a vigorous debate. College campuses are a great place to have those sorts of debates.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Professors are saying they're busy and they have excuses. You may not agree with her politics, but I'm just encouraged that you have this young Black woman who's saying, look, I want to get involved. I want to engage in politics. I want to bring students together. And I think it's admirable on her part. Unfortunately, as you said, she happens to be rooting for a team that's not too popular with HBCUs, obviously, because there's not a Republican club on any of the campuses. But hopefully this won't discourage her from getting active in politics. There is room in our politics now and has always been for different thoughts and folks who have alternative ideas about how this country should be run. So bravo to you, Sharice. Keep going. One of those professors is going to pay attention and take you up on that offer to hopefully create that club. When we come forward, I talk about Donald Trump is already saying that the election is rigged. Only a handful of states have started early voting. So even before folks really are voting in earnest, he's already predicting that if he loses, it's because of fraud, it's because of cheating, it's because the system has been manipulated to advantage Kamala Harris. Now, of course, he has no evidence of any cheating by anyone, but he is laying the groundwork for what may be another January 6th when we come forward. What is that going to mean for some voters who are already concerned about violence in our political system? Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community, educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit ca-smp-volunteer.org.
Chevy, All the Things 2024 Truck Season Radio 30, code GWMR0294000.
This truck season, think about all the things you can do in a Chevy truck. You'll be able to, or you can even just, with impressive towing, incredible bed and tailgate functionality, and multiple powertrains, Chevy trucks have what you need to get things done. When you want to do it all, Chevy's got you. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
All right, Rashad, I think you have some advice for Sharice Lane as it relates to her efforts to start that Republican political club on the campus of Florida A&M University in Tallahassee. So what would you say to Miss Lane?
So when I was an undergrad, I was the statewide Young Dems president, hosted the 2007 National College Democrats of America Convention on the campus of the University of South Carolina. And one thing that I know about students and one thing I know about Black people is that you cannot stop progress. She can have meetings off campus. They can meet at a Starbucks. They can meet at McDonald's. If she is really passionate about this doesn't have to just be a media stunt. She can organize students and they can meet off campus. It doesn't have to be an official organization on campus. But you can never stop students and you can never stop Black people from organizing. Okay? No matter how much red tape, no matter how many rules, you can never stop Black people from organizing because we are natural organizers. That's what we do. She can find a place off campus and meet, and they can still do great things if that is the desire.
And you may raise a good point, and I'm sure if she reaches out to some of those Republican elected officials in Florida, she would get some support from them. So she definitely doesn't need the support of the university to move forward and gather like-minded students together. Isn't
Absolutely.
Byron Donalds? He's a Florida Republican congressman, so I'm sure he'd be happy, and others to work with her on this effort. But again,
the Areva, the state capitol, isn't far from FAMU's campus. I'm pretty sure a myriad of those Republican senators and state representatives that cut already limited funding to FAMU, which is a public university in the state of Florida, I'm sure they would gladly host those 2 or 3 students in their offices at the state capitol. And
look at you throwing all kind of shade, Rashad.
Yeah, and maybe Miss Lane and these Republicans can get them to boost the funding that they've already cut to FAMU under DeSantis as being governor.
Areva, that's not just shade. That's a whole oak tree that Rashad just threw right there.
I'm sure she can get that half person to show up in an office. I'm sure they can find some space for her and the dog that's going to be there with her.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that comic relief, Mr. Rashad. All right, Dr. Need, Donald Trump says y'all cheating even before you started the voting. What are we going to do with this man other than try to get rid of him, hopefully this time?
I mean, it is Donald Trump's greatest hits on repeat. Can somebody make it stop? I mean, here he goes again, peddling in conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. First, it's Haitian migrants eating dogs and cats in Springfield, debunked, not true. He's out there saying that the vice president isn't smart. He's out there saying that President Biden and Vice President Harris aren't doing anything to help the people who are just beginning to recover from Hurricane Helene. All of that is not true. And all of it is a part of his plan to try and psych us out. He believes in the power of misinformation and disinformation. It's not a coincidence that he's just out there saying things that aren't true and providing fodder for trolls on social media to take these things, these little sound bites out of context and to blare them in the world of the internet. And so we all need to be mindful of the content that we are consuming. We need to look at the source. We need to look at the date. We need to check multiple sources. We need to make sure that we are consuming and, more importantly, amplifying information that's true. Otherwise, we might have a situation, where we have, even Janet Jackson, who may be confused about the identity of our vice president, right? I don't think that was necessarily shade. Maybe Janet got some bad information, right? It certainly is possible. And so we have to be mindful of that. And we know that former President Trump is not a reliable source for the truth. And that's a part of why folks like former Representative Liz Cheney says, I just can't do it. I can't support him. Throwing my support behind Vice President Harris.
Our media expert that comes on, Andre Brock, told us that Janet Jackson is likely influenced by Randy Jackson, who he said is a pretty publicly known Trumper, and that Randy has been affiliated with Trump for years, and that Randy manages Janet's career. So in all likelihood, the information that Janet was articulating during that interview was information she had gotten from her brother, who is obviously a trusted confidant because he manages her career. So I don't think that just came out of thin air. Obviously, she may be actually in a Trump bubble or around people that support Donald Trump. And of course, we know that's one of his talking points, that Kamala Harris is not Black. But
Areva, she still got access to Google. Janet Jackson, almost 60 years old. Come on now, Areva. Even if her brother Randy.
I wasn't giving her a pass. I was giving some context in terms of where she may be getting her information. And if she is getting it from Randy, and if Randy is affiliated with Trump, they don't do Google. They do Fox. That's what they do.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
With President Trump in this crybaby routine, this is the precursor to set up the stage for the foolishness for the night of the election and the days after the election. This is the precursor. This is the dog whistle for the antics, early voting, advanced voting, vote by mail, absentee, voting in person, whatever term we're using, depending on your state, starts in 2 weeks, right? 2.5 weeks. It's almost here. So this is the precursor to that. Never mind, they're still trying to strong arm Republican governors to do things and change laws, right? Never mind, they're still trying to strong arm Republican secretaries of states. Never mind that state board of elections have had all of this turmoil going back 4 years now. It's been crazy. The things that we've seen in Georgia this election cycle are absolutely bonkers. Never mind, the cheating really started with the Republicans. I've not forgotten that they mailed out absentee ballots in Montana and didn't have Vice President Harris on the ballot. Like, what are we doing here? So I just need the folks at home to be mindful. Like, don't take the bait. Don't let this man gaslight you. Like, be mindful of what you're taking. Protect your gates, as we say in church. Protect your eyes, protect your ears. You have to be mindful. Like, this is not the time for folks. Like, he's not just gonna start telling the truth. He always is gonna cry wolf, and the wolf is never coming because he is the wolf.
He is JD Vance has learned well, because JD Vance on that debate stage was whiny. Wait, guys, I thought you weren't going to fact check me. That's not fair. Whiny, whiny, whiny. It is so amazing that men, these white privileged men who enjoy every privilege in this country imaginable.
Rich, straight white men.
Yes. Yes. Cisgender white males, wealthy. I mean, they enjoy every privilege that you can imagine, and yet they always cast themselves as the victims. They've gotten that down to a science, making themselves the ones that are victimized by our society. And yes, Rashad, protect your eyes, protect your ears, protect your peace, because we can do this if we just stay focused and if we just keep our eye on the prize. We are just almost less than a month away from changing the trajectory of this country. And if we just stay the course, we can get there. We're out of time. Thank you so much, Dr. Nee. Thank you so much, Rashad. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. Make sure you check Dr. Nee out every day right here on KBLA at 1 p.m. PST. That's 4 p.m. for all of his viewers and listeners and fans on the East Coast. And when we come forward, more of this shocking jury verdict on the Tyre Nichols federal civil rights trial. We got the jury verdict today. Stick around to hear what the verdict is and how the jury may have gotten to it. KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Areva. Thank you, Nee. Thank you, Robert. See y'all soon.
All right, my friend.